Hey guys, what's going on? It's Christian Duke from StrengthAddicts.com. I just made some bodybuilding videos. That's why this setup is here. But I want to make a video because I've been following the Republican primaries, hawkishly. I was really surprised with Iowa. Rick Santorum just came out of nowhere. I know that he went to all 99 counties. I know he's a big, social conservative, and I know that, there's a lot of people that, still are very interested in those issues. I myself am interested in those issues to a certain extent. I think family values, the abortion issue, these are still things that are part of our, political landscape, I guess. And a lot of people always say that I'm kind of a hypocrite, but I mean, it's like, I am pro-life on a personal level. I'm Catholic. I was involved in pro-life movement when I was in Catholic high school. I was in Respect Life, and we had rallies. We didn't do abortion clinics or anything like that, but we were in rallies, and But as far as the government goes, I'm a strong believer in the separation of church and state. I'm a strong believer in a woman's right to choose, and I believe that, the government has no business telling a woman what to do with her body. And as much as it pains me to be a man and not have an opinion, or not have a legal, not an opinion, but a legal stake in a woman's right to choose, it really is what it is. I mean, if a woman wants to have an abortion and it's my wife or my girlfriend and I'm begging her not to do it, legally, I don't have a way to stop her. Morally, maybe, and ethically, maybe, but I legally don't have a right. And as much as that is an important issue to a lot of people, and as well as the issue of birth control, if you're Catholic and this and that, it's really not, I don't think, something that is going to win or lose an election. I mean, we've got some serious problems, and we've got skyrocketing, oil prices, a horrible economy. Our currency is completely, valueless. We're all over the world. I mean, we're in dozens of countries, military bases all over the place. We're becoming. I made this comment in my ADR class, alternate dispute resolution class at law school, and like the whole class turned on me. But it's true. I mean, we are becoming an agricultural society. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Like the people that produce the vegetables and the dairy and the eggs and all the crops. I mean, I tip my hat to them, and they have a very, very important role. But the problem is that I believe we are becoming exclusively an agricultural society. It's to say that our industrial sector, our manufacturing sector is shrinking, and the jobs are outsourcing, and these free trade agreements are being signed left, right, and center. I mean, it started with NAFTA and GATT, and now we're signing with all these countries all around the world that do not share our vision for labor rights and labor conditions and regulations, and you can't compete. I mean, we're paying our workers X amount of money, and we have to provide X amount of care for them, and that's the way it should be. That's why we had Haymarket Square, and that's why we had the Teamsters and the Longshoremen and the whole labor movement, and these were hard-fought victories, and by no means should they be rescinded so that we can compete with countries that are back into the Stone Age as far as civil liberties and as far as safeguards of freedom and labor. But to be honest with you, there's no way we can compete with like Indonesia or China or any of those countries. We just can't. And so I think the irony of it all is that while we can't compete with them as far as making shirts and refrigerators and microwaves and basically everything that's here, the irony is that while they can build all these things, they can't feed themselves. They need us. And so China buys all their soy from us, their grain from us, their corn from us. And so it's great that we have an agricultural edge, but it would be a very sad day if that's all we were one day. And that's where we're headed. And so I don't see how birth control, abortion, and family television has absolutely anything to do with that. And so I just don't, And so, I voted for Barack Obama in 2008, and the Republicans have not let him do absolutely anything. They've completely stonewalled him the last 2 years. But the first 2 years, he could have done something But again, we never really had a strong majority, in Congress to be able to move anything, and the courts are still greatly, greatly skewed to the right. So when you only really have one branch of government, you really can't get that much done. And so, I'm still going to vote for Obama. I believe in Obama, and I believe in what he stands for. His foreign policy is shit. Okay, he really pissed me off in Honduras when he condemned the coup, and then flip flopped and was embracing the coup plotters and these coup thugs, and Manuel Zelaya was never reinstated to finish out his democratic term, and that really pissed me off. And he also pissed me off in Libya, because this NTC bullshit, these are not freedom fighters. This is not the IRA or the INLA. These are not freedom fighters. These are thugs, okay? Gaddafi had a lot of flaws. He was a human rights violator, but at the same time, he was revolutionary. He supported a lot of people's struggles around the world, in Ireland and South Africa, and he wasn't a good guy. He wasn't a bad guy. I don't really have an opinion on him. But these NTC guys are surely not freedom fighters, and they're not like what they're all cracked up to be. And this was not a revolution. This was the same thing they pulled in Guatemala with Arbenz, this like staged revolution and this staged coup, and all these movements and all this crap. And you take the NATO airstrikes out, and you take all the covert shit out, and you take all the arming of these rebels up. You take all that out, and this is Guatemala in 1954. I mean, this was not a revolution. This was not Egypt. This was not Tunisia. This was not even Syria. This was not Qatar. This was not Bahrain. This was Guatemala in 1954. And the fact that Obama, was involved in that, I mean, just for those two things alone, I wouldn't vote for the guy. I mean, I cursed the guy. Like, I really did. And so, but these Republican debates, man, I'm telling you, Ron Paul. This video is about Ron Paul. It's not about Obama. It's not about Rick Santorum. It's not about, middle of the road Mormon Mitt Romney. It's not about, Bachmann. It's not about, Bill Clinton, Herman Cain. It's not about any of those people. This is about Ron Paul. Ron Paul is fiscal conservative, which to me, social liberal is like anathema. It's like, oh my God, really? You're going to cut the Department of Education? But at the same time, he makes sense. He makes a lot of sense. And his foreign policy, Ron Paul's foreign policy, if I had to vote for anyone for foreign policy, and foreign policy to me is probably at the top of the list, second only to repayment of student loans, because I have a lot of them. But foreign policy is it. I'm a history major. I'm a bookworm. I love all cultures. I would love nothing more than to have normalized relations with Cuba, Vietnam. Well, actually, we already have them with Vietnam. We're buying all their goods. Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. I would love to be able to go to North Korea for summer vacation, and then spend Christmas in Cuba and Thanksgiving in Iran, and then have them come over here and sell them our goods, and them sell us their goods, and everybody make money, and everybody flourish, and bury all the guns, and bury all the tanks, and bury all the bombs. Because really, I mean, war is the way people used to resolve matters like hundreds of years ago. Now it's all about trade. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to engage in the free markets. Everybody wants to prosper and have TVs and computers and wear nice clothes. That's what everybody wants, and Ron Paul seems to be the only person that's aware of that. You cannot force a country to do what you want because you starve them like they did in Cuba, or you blockade them like they do in Iran, or you isolate them from the rest of the world like they do in North Korea. You cannot do that. Okay, you just can't. They will not do it. Any country that has any backbone, like Cuba during the special period in the early 1990s, they were starving. The Soviet Union cut all their aid. Nobody was helping them. They were starving, okay? But they did not surrender. The IRA, they were up against everything. The CIA, MI6 or whatever, the British, the freaking Irish Republic, the 26 traitor counties, they were after them. They had no one. And then on top of that, in their own 6 counties, the Protestants were coming after them. And they never surrendered. They never got to their knees. They never begged. You know, the IRA, the INLA, they never begged. You know, the Cubans, they never begged. The Iranians, they never begged. You know what I mean? It's like that's not how you get shit done. You get shit done through dialogue. Now the IRA, not the IRA, Sinn Féin and the SDLP and the Protestants, the DUP and the UUP and all those fuckers, they're all working together now. You know what I mean? In Iran, they could do the same thing. In North Korea, they could do the same thing. But you got to dialogue. And the best way to dialogue is through free markets and through capitalism. That's the way to do it. When you trade with people and you respect people, and my girlfriend's falling asleep, but when you trade people and you treat them with dignity, you know, and everybody engages in capitalism, all these old feuds end because everybody wants to do business. That's just the way of the world. You know what I mean? And I'm a leftist Democrat, you know, and I would love to live in some sort of socialist utopia, but that's just not the way it works. You need to have a good mix. You can have your government spending on social programs, but you need that capitalism. You need to have that there. Now, that's not Ron Paul's position. Ron Paul would probably really not want to hear most of this stuff because I am a pinko liberal. But I really, really love Ron Paul, and I really love his foreign policy, and I seriously am against a lot of his cuts on spending, but at the same time, he's backing it up with stuff that makes sense. He's backing it up with alternate, you know, exit strategies and alternate theories that actually work. You know, he's not talking about poor and indigent people dying on the side of the road. You know, he's not talking about single mothers, you know, having nowhere to feed their kids. He's not talking about any of that. He's talking about cutting all the government pork. He's talking about more states' rights, which is great. You know, states' rights are good because if Massachusetts wants to have gay marriage but Mississippi doesn't, at least you have gay marriage in Massachusetts. You don't have to go to Canada to get married. I mean, all the states, we are a country of 50 states, and every state is like its own country. I mean, to say that the Great Northwest, you know, that Seattle, that Washington is the same as like Kansas, or to say that, you know, super urban New York is like super agricultural Iowa or something. I don't know. We are a country of 50 mini countries, and I believe in federalism, but the national government really needs to be curtailed. I mean, it's too powerful. It has way too much spending, has very little oversight, and taxpayers have no standing. Taxpayers cannot challenge the federal government. Hell, the states can't challenge the federal government. If a state like Louisiana would have wanted to continue having the drinking age at 18, their roads would have fallen apart. I mean, the federal government literally controls these states through its spending power. Yeah, I mean, the states can't even stand up to the federal government on state issues. So, I'm just rambling. I'm just rambling right now. I'm just totally rambling because I am not supposed to like Republicans. I am not supposed to be, you know, tempted to vote Republican. And when the Michigan primary rolls around, I'm thinking about registering as a Republican just to vote for Ron Paul. But I don't want to be a spoiler either. Because a lot of times parties do that. They're like, oh, okay, everybody's going to switch over to the other party and vote for the loser guy just to screw with the front runner. I don't know that I want to do that. Like, I am really at the point where I would register Republican to vote for Ron Paul. And if Ron Paul got the nomination, I would even consider voting for him over Obama. But again, I would have a real problem doing that because I am going to be part of the working class, and I've always identified with the working class and the poor, you know, and seniors. And I don't want seniors having to pay, you know, 70% markup on prescription drugs. I don't want to see buses of seniors going to Canada so they won't die because they can't afford the medicine here. I don't want people to have to go and beg at a church hospital to get care because the big private ones, they don't want to, you know, recognize HMOs or they don't want to recognize Medicaid. I have a serious moral dilemma voting for a Republican, but at the same time, foreign policy has really screwed over our economy and has really been a major culprit in the reason, you know, in the state of our country right now. I'm not going to vote for Barack Obama because to me, foreign policy, Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, Rick Santorum, they're all the same. They're all the same. They're the same shit with different flies on it, basically. And Ron Paul is the only guy that's offering me something different. Some people vote for abortion and other people vote for labor unions, and maybe I'll vote for foreign policy. And if that's the case, I'm going to vote for Ron Paul. I'm Christian Duke from StrengthAddicts.com. Thanks.